I want to start this video off by talking about one of my favorite movies from my childhood that, by the way, if you haven't seen, you definitely should. If your kids haven't seen it, you should show it to them immediately. In fact, stop the video after I give you the title and show them this movie. And that, of course, is the 1999 financial flop, The Iron Giant, which is Vin Diesel's, by the way, best performance as an actor, bar none. Maybe second best behind that is his performance as Groot in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. But the premise of The Iron Giant is as follows. You have a robot that's built by aliens or the Soviets or whoever, it doesn't matter, that is clearly and obviously designed to be a weapon of mass destruction. However, he gets hit on his head, he lost his memory, and he ends up befriending a young boy called Hogarth, and throughout the course of the movie, Hogarth teaches him this lesson that you are who you choose to be. And the annihilating style robot is juxtaposed with Superman, the topic of today's video. And throughout the course of the film, the Iron Giant wants to be Superman. He wants to choose that path rather than the path that was laid out for him. But the thing that you need to understand is, for the premise of this movie to make sense, Superman has to be so ingrained in our culture, who he is fundamentally, that we understand that just naming him as the goal for the Iron Giant can have the film's entire plot, entire choice, everything work. And the reason that is possible is because Superman is that character. He does actually mean something on his own, and that is what we need to see whenever we're analyzing any kind of Superman related media. We need to see the noble choices. We need to see him stand up for truth, justice in the American way. We need to see him be a representation of the best parts of us. Superman is an aspirational character. We need to feel when we're engaging with Superman media that the world would be a better place, or you would be a better person if you behaved more like Superman. So that is the lens to which I analyze all Superman media. That is the lens to which I will be analyzing this particular trailer, and that is the lens to which I will be criticizing ridiculous takes like the one that Ben Shapiro laid out, where he was just hating on this movie just to hate on it, or hating on this teaser just to hate on it. So yeah, we're gonna break down the Superman teaser, we're gonna break down some of the reaction, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?
Stop! No! Crypto! Crypto. Take me home.
So already people are angry about this particular section of the teaser released by Warner Brothers because they're saying certain things like, why is Crypto attacking Superman? Why is Superman being attacked by Crypto? Why are they doing the comedy thing? Oh my god, Man of Steel so much cooler. Remember, the Snyderverse was going to Injustice storyline. I like Injustice storyline because it's new and they have a video game.
Okay, I don't see the purpose of this.
Take me home.
So this is not dramatic, it's just silly and ridiculous. Okay, and then finally Crypto figures out that he needs to take Superman back to the Fortress of Solitude. Every James Gunn joke is a Monty Python joke, just lasts 3 times too long. So now Crypto is dragging Superman's prone body through the snow back toward the Fortress of Solitude, which arises from the Arctic. And it's a cool looking Fortress of Solitude, I'll give you that. But don't worry, it gets worse.
Now, to be clear, Benny Boy isn't 100% wrong right there to be worried about James Gunn turning this into too much of a goofy comedy a la Guardians of the Galaxy. So I will point out that I do have a little bit of hesitancy getting on board James Gunn for this particular movie because I'm not sure 100% he is the correct person for this particular job. That being said, I think what people seem to not understand is that Crypto is a dog. Like, he may have the powers or some of the powers of Superman, but fundamentally he's a dog. His owner is Superman. Superman has never been hurt in front of Krypto, so the point of him jumping on him is that he's acting in a way that a dog would act in this particular scenario. And by the way, many of the commenters underneath the trailer get this 100%, and they're explaining it to people who are on the internet.com bitching and moaning about how this isn't the Snyderverse.
Thank you.
No need to thank us, sir, as we will not appreciate it. We have no consciousness whatsoever. Merely automatons here to serve. Meet 12. She's new.
He looked at me.
So right here, we see the robots that are caring for Superman. They are meant to serve him. And of course, Superman does a very Superman thing where he thanks the robots because that's the kind of person that he is. It tells you a little bit about his character, about the humility of this particular person. And then we get a joke that aggravated Ben Shapiro very, very much about one of the female robots being into Superman because it looked at him.
Thank you.
No need to thank us, sir, as we will not appreciate it. We have no consciousness whatsoever. Merely automatons here to serve. Meet 12. She's new.
He looked at me.
With a healthy dose of yellow sun, we'll have you up and at 'em in no time.
Okay, and then they're gonna
292
hit
times
Superman with a
Fahrenheit,
magnifying
please.
glass. All right. And now he's painfully absorbing the sun, which apparently was not available before. So the sun, which, as we all know, illuminates the Earth, which is the planet we are currently spinning on, apparently only the magnifying glass could make Superman better.
Now again, I want some lighthearted stuff in my Superman movie. I want some jokes here and there. Now, whether or not this whole movie is going to be one joke after another, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is my least favorite of the Guardians movies, that remains to be seen. But the overreaction to this, absurd in every possible way. Then, of course, you have the next thing, which is Superman being healed by focused solar energy, and people are mad about that on the internet.com as well. Now look, I know the Snyder people are angry. I knew the Snyder people were going to reject this no matter what, because it's not a continuation of the ridiculously over-the-top dark version of the universe that Snyder put forward, but the guy has a bunch of different bones. If the sunlight is making him heal, all those bones are resetting, and you would expect some pain to be included in that particular process. And people are saying that Superman should grin and bear it, but remember, this is a guy who is not actually exposed to pain all that often. So his reaction right here, totally fine. Everybody needs to relax. Everybody needs to calm down.
He's back.
And then it concludes with a mishmash of a bunch of different scenes right there. And again, you don't really get a sense of where this movie is going. It seems like there's a lot of stuff in here. I saw Mr. Terrific. I saw Hawkgirl. It appears that they have Guy Gardner, Green Lantern in this particular film. So again, it doesn't give you a whole bunch of information on what this movie is about. I have a weird feeling that the villain based on Superman being in that box might actually be the Collector. But again, I haven't read anything about this. But as of right now, as of what I've seen so far, especially with the way that Lex gave that line that he's back, I'm actually a bit hopeful, because if you guys will remember, I have 3 basic rules for how to make Superman work. The first one is Krypton does not matter. I'm so tired of hearing about Superman's origin stories. I'm so tired of him being this alien that is on planet Earth, when in reality, Superman is an alien, but that is incidental to his character. The key component of his character is that he is raised on Earth by a good, wholesome American family, a middle American family, and that is is why he is so good. It is a nurture, not a nature story. Sure, he gets his powers from his Kryptonian origin. Sure, kryptonite plays a role and whatnot. But the fact is, fundamentally, Superman is of Earth. He is raised on Earth. Supergirl is the one who grew up on Krypton, and then through some machination, sometimes she's frozen, sometimes she's thrown in the Phantom Zone or whatever, ends up on Earth, and it's like going back in time for her. So the Superman as a man of Earth, it seems like that's what we're seeing in this particular film, so check right there. Also, the repeat of Kryptonians as villains absolutely sucks. We've seen it a million times. It was best done in Superman 2 back in the day, but right now, when you can recreate any one of Superman's different villains or different power sets, we can do better than him just fighting the cliche, an evil version that is opposite to him. So I look at this movie and there is one person that may or may not be a Kryptonian in a clip of this, and that worries me, but hopefully they actually go for a Superman villain that we haven't seen before, because again, it's interesting to see his power set and his mindset go against somebody who has a different power set and a different ideology, you know, somebody who actually conflicts with him on multiple different levels, not just the evil bad version of Superman, which is often represented in films by Zod. So yeah, I don't want to see any of this overemphasis on Krypton. It does not matter to the story. It is all supplementary, and part of the reason why this has infected the Superman mythos so much is that the role of Krypton has been expanded ever since Marlon Brando ended up playing Jor-El. Jor-El does not matter. I'm telling you right now, you could remove all of the Jor-El scenes from the Superman comic books, and it does not change his character fundamentally. The Kents matter. The middle American family from the heartland that raised him with the values that he carries with him are far more crucial. Next up on the list that I always look for, and I didn't see any of it in this movie, is the fact that a Superman movie needs to be clear that Superman is neither God nor Jesus Christ. This is something that Man of Steel was absolutely obsessed with, and I've had enough of this nonsense in my Superman movies. I mean, the entire point and premise of Jonathan Kent's death, which is sometimes done via heart attack, sometimes done via cancer, is to show us the limitations of Superman. Because typically, in a good telling of Superman, he dies from something that Superman cannot prevent. This is something that Man of Steel got so wrong and did so horribly with Jonathan Kent being eaten by a tornado right in front of Clark. It's absolutely embarrassing. And the fact that they had to have him save a dog while that happened because we didn't care about Jonathan Kent enough, so we had to show him being nice to animals. If you guys don't know, saving a dog or killing a dog is the cheapest way humanly possible to get emotional investment from the audience. It's embarrassing. And again, he could have easily saved him by running really fast, grabbing him out of the tornado, and people would not have been any of the wiser. But for some reason, Zack Snyder decided to have Superman quite literally let his own father die. And by the way, his mother was an absolutely horrible person with this line right here.
People hate what they don't understand. Be their hero, Clark. Be their angel. Be their monument. Be anything they need you to be. Or be none of it. You don't know this world a thing. You never did.
So yeah, I didn't see anything in this particular trailer that was a giant red flag like we saw in Man of Steel. And then the third thing that I think is absolutely crucial, and no Superman movie, zero movies ever have gotten this right, which is make Lex Luthor a serious villain, a serious person. Look, the Christopher Reeve movies are great on their own, but Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, is a goofy real estate guy. The same is true with, I think, Kevin Spacey, who played him in Superman Returns. And of course, the Jesse Eisenberg performance is infamous for how terrible it is, where he's basically a knockoff of Mark Zuckerberg. And although I was worried about the signs of Nicholas Hoult going down that goofy path, and that would really piss me off, because again, you have Superman the Animated Series, which is by far and away the best adaptation, which leads into Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, which again is a continuation and still the best adaptation of Superman, where they take Lex Luthor seriously. So all of that right here looks looks like it's either confirmed to be true, or at least it does not appear that they've gone against those rules, and I am very positive about those particular outcomes. Now, do I need it to be jokey like Guardians of the Galaxy or anything of the sort? No, absolutely not. Again, a pulled back version of that where there is some humor, but it's not over the top, a la not like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is my least favorite of the trilogy, would be beneficial for this particular movie. But so far, so good. And by the way, a lot of people are showing clips of Darkseid and all this different stuff from the Justice League Snyder cut or the Man of Steel movie or whatever, and this honestly is just a fundamental misunderstanding of the character. It breaks all three of the rules that I put forward in this video and in my previous video, and again, it actually undercuts the very story that Zack Snyder was trying to sell, because this character, played by Henry Cavill, is not Superman, and he is designed specifically to not be Superman. He is a deconstruction of the character, in Zack Snyder's own words, and what's really unfortunate about that is that starting with the deconstruction as the Man of Steel universe did, essentially doomed all the projects related to that Superman, because nothing after that ended up working. When you have somebody who in movie 1 commits about 700 9/11s while fighting Zod and then snaps his neck, it doesn't help us to actually be invested in him when he suddenly turns heroic and gets killed in movie 2. Then when you have the Justice League movie where they bring him back to life and everybody's talking about him like he's this hopeful, inspiring individual, you're left asking yourself, wait a minute, why would I think that? This guy was a complete and utter monster. He was ridiculous. But again, that's quite literally what Zack Snyder was going for. And then we have the post-credit thing in Justice League, the Snyderverse, where we find out that Superman, after the death of Lois Lane, a la the Injustice storyline, has turned evil and has become a servant of Darkseid. And the thing about that is that would work better if you didn't start with a deconstruction. Like, what people don't understand is that stories where Superman becomes a villain due to circumstances can be interesting. They can be good. They can work. But the reason that those things are true is because of what I talked about in the opening of this particular video. Because like in the Iron Giant, we understand fundamentally who Superman is and who he is supposed to be. But if you start off your universe by getting Superman wrong, and he's already kind of a villain, he's already kind of a violent a-hole who doesn't care about people, who doesn't save people, who casually lets hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people die, as he did in Man of Steel, then when you get to the point where he actually turns evil, you're not surprised. It's not a juxtaposition. It doesn't actually shock you in any way, and you don't even really root for him to come back to the good side, to see the light.
And then it ends with this epilogue, this sort of tantalizing epilogue, where they flash forward into the future. Batman's having a dream, and in the future, Lois is dead. Superman has gone bad. It appears that some members of the Justice League are just not there at all. And so he sets up this whole other universe that they're ready to go to, right? What is supposed to happen next? What comes next? Frankly, it makes everybody want the Zack Snyder universe. So I know Warner Brothers has decided to move in a different direction. So Warner Brothers has decided to move away from this, even though by all measures, I mean, from Rotten Tomatoes to the number of people who viewed this on HBO Max, this is actually rather a major hit. I mean, honestly, like, big congratulations to Zack Snyder, because he's been beat up by the critics a lot, and I think very unfairly in certain cases. Again, I'm a defender of Batman versus Superman, particularly the extended version, which is quite good.
Part of what makes Superman versus Darkseid interesting is not just the fact that Darkseid is this villainous creature that can go toe-to-toe with Superman, but it's also that he corrupts flaws within the human heart, within any alien's heart. And Superman has the will to endure that, and of course has the will to inspire people to let go of their fear, let go of those negative emotions that can help fuel Darkseid's power. But Man of Steel Superman does not have that capability. He's always mopey. He's always dopey. He thinks he's above everybody else. And again, he's willing to kill instantaneously if it is convenient for him to do so. The thing that all these Snyder dorks and Ben Shapiro, who defended the Zack Snyder Superman movies and the Zack Snyder DCEU movies, don't understand is that it is more interesting to see a Superman like the Christopher Reeve Superman, or like what we could be getting in this particular movie, turn to to the dark side because we're already invested in the light. We already see him on display, saving people, caring for each and every individual, caring for even lifeless automatons because he's such a charming and courteous guy that when he flips, it has to be something major in order to trigger that. The Man of Steel Superman could be corrupted by Darkseid and should be corruptible by Darkseid instantaneously. He's already a murderer. He's already a not good person. He's already an a-hole who, again, doesn't have any real connections to humanity. One of the biggest mistakes, again, in that Snyderverse movie is the fact that he is only connected to Lois Lane. That is the only person he's shown to care about, other than maybe the worst scene in DC movie history, where we have the Martha scene, but he doesn't even care about his father enough to risk exposing his identity in order to save him. It's not Superman, and it's not interesting when that guy ends up going corrupt. So all these people who are like, oh, the Snyderverse was gonna go in such a cool direction or whatever, it would be better, it would be less hacky if he actually started off good and then went to the dark side. And to be clear, I'm not somebody who hates the Injustice storyline. I'm not somebody who hates versions of the story where Superman goes dark. One of my favorite arcs in the Justice League Unlimited universe is the Justice Lords arc, which ends up leading from the original Justice League, which shows us an alternative league after the Flash dies, where Superman goes dark, all the way into Justice League Unlimited, where they're putting out this idea that maybe that's not an alternative universe, it's actually a future universe, and our Superman's going to do this. But the reason that story works is because we've been with our Superman for a long time. You have to be an absolute idiot, you have to be an absolute moron, you have to be somebody obsessed with deconstructing heroes like Zack Snyder was, to think that your main timeline Superman should start out already as the Injustice version of Superman. And that's what they were going with in that direction. And in reality, even if you were going to do that story, which by the way is a modern story, and it is kind of hacky to do those modern stories, then you would want to still start out with somebody like this new version of Superman, or at least what he looks like as of right now in this particular trailer. So yeah, I'm a bit optimistic about this Superman movie. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if it's going to be too jokey or whatnot. If I were making a Superman movie, I would probably not include Krypto in it because he does seem a little bit too goofy for a movie. But the thing is, James Gunn is actually really good with weird, underutilized characters, as opposed to other filmmakers who would definitely botch or bungle the particular use of Krypto. In addition to that, we also obviously are seeing some version of All-Star Superman. Maybe this movie is designed, at least in flashback, with all the different various characters that we see, to catch us up to speed with what's going on in the DC universe. Maybe they're going to really blast past the origin, which I think is perfectly fine. And Lex Luthor, at least from what they're saying in the interviews, at least from that line reading right there, actually looks like he might be a serious villain. He actually looks like they're not going to make him some kind of stupid joke or real estate guy, or of course whatever the hell was going on with Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal, where he was more similar to the Jim Carrey Riddler, trying to be a Mark Zuckerberg version of it, and again was yet another Zack Snyder stunt casting, deconstruction, modernization of Superman. And that's really where I want to get at with all these different people who are clamoring for the Man of Steel universe, because again, like I said multiple times, Superman means something. He is a character that is well established in the minds of people, and it is the height of arrogance, it is the height of hubris, and the most disrespectful thing that you can possibly do to tell me that a deconstructed version of this character who has stood the test of time since the 1940s is the best version of him, is a sensible direction to go for your mainline Superman. Again, you want to set up for a Justice Lords or Injustice like storyline with an alternate version of Superman, that's totally fine. But you don't make your prime Superman your Justice Lord Superman. You don't make your prime Superman your Injustice Superman. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And again, it disassembles a character that stands for something that is just more meaningful in the United States of America. And I'm not on board with it. And I'm not down with anybody else who's on board with it. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. But of course, I want to know what you guys think about all this down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the new Superman teaser that just dropped. Till next time.